Israel. We do have the ground invasion going on. The target appears increasingly to be around destroying as many tunnels as possible. How is this going, and what would mission accomplished look like for the IDF? Joining me now live is Ian Parmeter from the ANU Centre for Arab and Islamic Studies. Thank you for your time. So from what we know so far around how the so-called ground invasion, a relatively limited one, is going, we see vision of destroyed tunnels, but we know it's such a huge network. Is Israel trying to destroy the whole tunnel network? Is it going to be able to do that?
Well, that is really the key question. At this stage, Israel has said that it's moving into a second phase of the operation. It has Gaza City, the main part of the northern urban area of Gaza, surrounded, and now starts the very difficult and very risky task of going from building to building, trying to hunt out any Hamas operatives that may be there. We know the Hamas operatives will be able to use tunnels to escape. We don't know where they are, nor for that matter do we. I think the Israelis know where they all are. They discover some. We saw some on the television news last night, but we don't necessarily know how representative that number of tunnels is. At this stage, it's going to be a very difficult operation for them. And the other part, I might add, is that the question of what the end game is very unclear at this point, because most of the population of Gaza is now crowded into the bottom half of Gaza, and what Israel is going to do with them, particularly if a number of Hamas leaders and operatives are mixed among them, is very unclear.
I guess we're getting to the part which is going to be riskier for the IDF then, and likely involve more of those skirmishes in terms of street by street. And that tunnel network, I mean, it's described as a network, but clearly it's not one continuous tunnel, because then once you get in, you figure where it all is. It's hundreds of kilometres that could be anywhere. They start and they end in different places. So, at what point are they measuring how many kilometres they're doing at a time? How on earth are they going to know?
Well, they won't. I suspect what we've read is that they have 500 kilometres of tunnels underneath an area which is about half the size of urban Canberra. So that's a lot of tunnels. And Israel may know where some of them are, but I find it very difficult to believe that it knows where all of them are. I think a bigger worry for Israel, though, is something that a former Israeli prime minister and head of the Israeli Defense Forces, Ehud Barak, said a couple of days ago, which was that Israel probably has only a very limited window of opportunity in which to carry out this operation, because there is now so much international opposition to what Israel is doing in terms of its bombing campaigns. The daily pictures that we're seeing of children being brought into hospital and having suffered hideous wounds is clearly having a toll on Israel's reputation. And it then has a toll, by extension, on the US reputation. And the consequence of that is that well could hurt Biden in next year's election. So all of this joins up. It will hurt Biden in next year's election because the young progressive vote that he needs to get out to vote for him may not turn out if they think that he has been too pro-Israeli. So although Biden has now called for a humanitarian pause, which is more than he was prepared to agree to about 10 days ago in a UN General Assembly resolution, it can't be too long before he calls for a ceasefire. And that will mean that it's essentially game over for Israel.
Okay. So that will be an interesting element to sort of play out, I suppose, that element of it, which is a big part of this war. Where do you see as well the postscript? Because surely this is the biggest lesson for the US out of the Middle East. What happens after you defeat an enemy matters. What fills the vacuum of Hamas?
That is the big problem. First of all, I don't think it will be possible to completely eliminate Hamas. I think there always will be. It's an ideology as well as a militant movement. But essentially, as soon as Israel thinks it may have destroyed all of Hamas, someone else will pop up and say, well, I'm Hamas and I'm still here. It's a bit like whack-a-mole. There are many ideas that the Americans are actually tossing about with the Israelis, and Blinken has talked to the head of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, about the Palestinian Authority taking over control of Gaza once notionally Hamas has been removed. Now, Abbas, we understand, has agreed in principle, but he said that he wants it to be part of a two-state solution, which at this stage would be very difficult to implement straight away, given the enormous number of settlers who are in the West Bank. So, and presumably, Mahmoud Abbas won't accept some sort of assurance that, yes, we'll talk about this two-state solution. He will actually want it in place before he agrees to try to manage security in Gaza on behalf of Israel. And the other aspect is, I don't think he has the strength, military strength, to be able to do that. He will need to have some other elements, perhaps an Arab force, perhaps, one former Israeli leader, Ehud Olmert, has suggested a NATO force that might go in.
Okay.
All these possibilities are there, but very few of them at this stage seem realistic.
No, it's it is fraught, the period after. Ian Parmeter, thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.